had a mammogram, and there was something on there, and I needed a biopsy. Come in, come in, come in.
She's waiting on somebody.
Okay, okay. Anita and Rose are here.
Oh,
Wow. More chairs? We have enough chairs? So, what? So I couldn't have they couldn't do a biopsy in Auburn for like 2 weeks. And my sister Ann has I have two sisters, Ann and Beth, twins. They're my baby sisters. They're 14 months younger than me. So my sister Ann had a friend who happened to be a breast cancer surgeon in Birmingham. And she called her, come on, I'll do the biopsy. Come on. And I really didn't think that it was cancer, mostly because even though my family said the breast was that, and I had already been tested and had been tested and had the results 18 months before that I do not carry the gene. So I thought, oh, I'm going up for this biopsy, just because, got to do it. So I went up, and I had the results within 20 minutes of her taking the little core, and it was cancer. And it had been a year before that. My sister Beth had gotten the news that her breast cancer, which she had had 7 years before that, her breast cancer, 7 years, 7 years before this day, my sister Beth had had breast cancer. And when that happened, I remember I was in that denial, that I couldn't believe it. I walked around like, I would go out to lunch, on my lunch break and just walk around campus just going, Beth has cancer, just because I couldn't believe it. And it took a while for it to even sink in. That was 7 years before. Maybe it was 6 years before. But when the doctor said to me, Laura, I'm so sorry, you have breast cancer. You want to see you? It just sank right in, like instantly. I knew it was true, and I knew it was just there. It was in. It just went in instantly. So she talked with me, and we called Ray, my husband, from her office right away. So he knew right away. But then I had to drive back home. I had this 2-hour drive back home. My daughters were 8 and 12 at the time, and that is the time of my life when I felt most alone. And also, most of you know this, but at that time, I did not have a walking relationship with God. I had in the past, but then we had drifted away. So we had raised our daughters up to that point in church, and we didn't have any daily relationship with God. But so I was really alone. It's like I didn't even have the Lord to call on, and in that drive home. And yet, when there's a bridge right before Childersburg that goes over the river. What river is it? I don't remember what river it is, but I was driving. I got to the top of the bridge, and I looked over to the river, and there was the sun setting right at that moment, right over that river. And it was just like, and I'm a nature girl. I mean, nature speaks to me. It was like, it's okay. It's going to be okay. It's going to be hard, but, God was speaking right straight into my heart. And I didn't even hear it as God. I just felt the message without any words and without even thinking that it was God at all. So But after that, the next day, and for many, many days after that, when I first woke up, the very first moment of going from sleeping to waking was this awful feeling of fear and dread and darkness. And that moment, and a lot of times you're not awake enough to realize to even remember it at all later, but I feel like that moment of every day, and for some people it's lots and lots of moments, because if you don't sleep well, you're going drifting in and out of sleep, so maybe it's not quite the same. But for me, I sleep really soundly, so when I wake up, it's that one time every day that you go from sleeping to waking. And that's the moment when I think you're the most vulnerable, you're the most open to the Spirit of God, and also sometimes open to dark thoughts too. So I think that our prayer, and there are lots of places in the Bible that talk about meditating in our hearts, searching our hearts while we're on our beds. And I feel like that moment of the day is a day when we can take our spiritual temperature better than any other time. And I also think that that's a time when, even though we really don't have conscious control over what's happening in that moment, that we can pray for the holy angels to guard us through the night, and to be wakened by the whispers of God, the whispers of love of God into our hearts at that moment, and even to after a few minutes, after you become a little bit awake, just say a few words. Just say, "Thank you for today, Lord. Help me, Lord. Show me your face." Something very just from the heart to God in that very first moment. And I don't do it every day, of course. But I want to.